If your LG front-loading washing machine all of a sudden starts making crazy noise, you look and the drum is either hanging or sagging in the back or the front, the rubber boot is displaced, don't throw away money on a new washer yet or an expensive repair. You might be able to do it yourself for cheap, and we're going to try it right now. Now this is being done on an LG, but it's going to be similar for most other brands, so it's worth taking a look. When you see the drum falling down like that, it's usually one of two things. Either the suspension, either the springs or the little shock absorbers, something's wrong with them, or the worst case would be what's called the spider arm or the bearing that's in the back. Taking apart the washer is not as difficult as you may think. And the first thing we're going to do is take this retaining wire off of the front here so we can remove this boot. And there's a spring, there's a special tool for this. I'll put a link to it below. I don't have one, but I'm working it just fine with the screwdriver here. Get it popped out, take this whole ring off, and you can take this boot out and push it in so that we can work on this front cover here. Next, remove the tray that you put detergent in. You just push the tab down and it pulls out. Because there's two screws here that we're going to need to take off to take out the front panel. The top panel, there's just two screws down bottom and this thing slides out. Now, this is 5 minutes worth of work and you can see right off the bat, here is a problem, a broken spring. Now right here, I can probably just replace these two springs and be done. But I want to refresh this tub and I'm going to replace the shocks that are underneath. So we're going to have to take this thing apart. You'll notice the front panel, there's two screws up front by the detergent tray and there's one right here in the back. You take those three screws out. There's a few clips, plastic clips that hold it to the front, but this entire front panel will just clip off. And then there's little wire harness. I think there's 3 plugs back here. Disconnect those harnesses. You can pull this front cover off. After that, there are some screws for the front panel. You remove those screws. Then we turn our attention to the little door down the bottom on the left where you find your drain and your filter clean out. You pop that piece off and there's a screw behind there. You take that out. That allows you to tilt this door forward a little bit, undo the harnesses on the right side, and you can pick this thing up and off those tabs. What holds your drum in place are these 2 springs that suspend it from the top rails and 3 little shocks at the bottom. And you can see here, since this spring broke and this tub was pushed down into the right, I want to replace these to make sure that they're going to be in good working order. The job will be a lot easier if you remove the 2 weights that are on the front of this drum. There's 4 10mm bolts that hold it on. Just back those off and carefully remove their weights off of the front of this housing. With the weights off, it'll make it a lot easier to pick up the drum and hook the new springs on. If you have some sort of tool that you can use to grab onto the spring to pull it up, it'll be very useful. I'm going to start off by taking the new spring, putting it down into the hole on the side of the drum where it's supposed to go. Then I'm going to take this hook tool, which is something that came with an old trampoline set, pull up on the spring, and latch it back into the hole that's in this top rail. Going to go to the other side. Even though this one didn't break, I'm going to replace it anyway. Use that same tool to unhook it, bring it down, and then put the new one in. Note that this side has a little plastic retaining clip that helps protect the spring and keep it on. The other one, I don't know what happened to it. It broke off and went somewhere, so I don't have that one to put back on the other side. Now, underneath there are 3 shock absorbers that help suspend the drum, and they're held in by these clips, these pins, I should say, that have little tabs. And instead of messing with a screwdriver or pliers or something, it's an easy hack. Take a socket, a deep socket that's just big enough to get that pin into it. Slide it in. It'll help push the pins down. Then you can just slide the thing out. This one here, it hits up against a piece of plastic. So what I ended up doing, what's a good trick, is to just hold the pliers and then hit the pliers themselves with the hammer. Don't hit anything on the washer with the hammer. But I'm going to tap the pliers here a little bit with the hammer, and it's going to pop this thing right out. Once you have the pins out from both the top and bottom of the shock absorber, reinstall the new ones in the reverse fashion. I got a set off of Amazon for pretty cheap. Came with all 3 shocks and 6 pins. Make sure you fully seat the pins. Use a hammer or a mallet and just some gentle taps to get them all the way in. Repeat the procedure for both the right and left sides. It's tight and it's a little tricky getting in here. The pins don't have to be in any specific orientation. So if it's easier to face the pin towards you or away from you, go ahead and do that. As long as they're all the way in, it'll work. With the 3 shocks and 2 springs in place, go ahead and start to reassemble the washer. Starting off with the 2 weights, 4 10mm bolts in each one, and don't torque them down too tight. Once that's done, go ahead and inspect all the hoses and harnesses in and around the tub. Make sure nothing came off by mistake while the tub was being worked on or when it fell off the springs. Next, we reinstall the front panel. And there's 4 metal tabs at the bottom, and we're going to install the panel on an angle. They fit right onto those tabs, and you can swing the panel right up. When you do that, grab the boot and just push it through. Make sure it's not getting pinched. And don't forget to reconnect the harness that's on the side. Once you have that boot out of the way, you should be able to push the panel up flush against the body of the washer and get at least 1 screw in to hold it in place. Before you go any further, at this point, the boot, you want to reinstall that. There is a small, very thin lip on the body of this front panel. And that boot has to sit in it, and it creates another ridge of its own that retaining wire is going to sit into. So make sure that fully seats all the way around and you have no issues with that before you fully install this front panel. Once you feel the boot is in place, close the door and finish installing the front panel. There are 4 screws in total at the top of this panel and the screws down bottom where your drain is. This is a good time to point out that there's different types of screws in this process. Small machine screws, coarse thread screws. Make sure you put them to the side and you know where they came off of so you can reinstall them properly. Next, the top panel with the control board goes on, and it's similar to the front panel where it goes in on an angle first from the bottom and tilts upward. Make sure you route these harnesses through the opening and clip the top of the panel back into all the little slots where the retaining clips go into. Reinstall the 2 screws that are behind the detergent tray and the 1 screw that is in the back of the panel. With the front control panel back on, go ahead and reconnect the 3 harnesses behind it, and then refasten the wire wraps around them to keep it in place. Next, the top panel goes back on. One thing to note, there is a lot of sharp, or I should say unfinished, sheet metal edges inside of this washer, so use caution when handling, for example, the top panel or when your hands are inside working on those shock absorbers. But the top panel goes on about 1 inch behind the front panel, and then it slides forward to lock into place. The 2 screws behind will secure it. Now this next part is the most difficult, the most challenging portion of this repair, and it's getting this retaining wire back around this boot and secured at the bottom. That tool really does help, and if you want to hit up Amazon for it, it's pretty cheap and you can order one to make this thing go like a breeze. For me, I'm just going to work my way around it, starting at the spring needs to be perfectly at the bottom. So remember how you orient that wire, but start it up to at the top. Feel that ridge or that lip that you created when you put the boot back into place. That wire is going to go into that little ridge, and when it gets to the bottom and it snaps into place, it secures the entire boot. The difficult part is to get this to stay in place as you're doing it. What I found worked was eventually using my knee to hold the wire on one side and using a tool. I used a plastic tool so I didn't do much, so I wouldn't do damage to the boot. Use your knee on one side, the plastic tool on the other, to slowly work that wire in, and then finally pop that spring up underneath where it falls into that ridge, and the boot will be secure. Before we go any further, I want to test this out. If you press the spin speed and the soil level button simultaneously, and then push the power button, it will put the machine into a diagnostic mode. From there, you can run a few tests. And the first thing you want to do is run the pump. This thing broke mid-use, and so there's still water in the system. And as you can see here, pump is running fine, getting out whatever water was left in there, and I see that drum starting to spool up. I'm going to go back up front, and I'm going to use that panel to ramp up the speed to max, and watch to see if it's wobbling, if it's making any noise, if it's steady on its axis, and this thing looks as good as new. So we are done. We're going to finish it up by reinstalling the back panel, which goes on with 4 screws, which I didn't show you earlier, but this one's easy to do. You can figure it out. I'll put links below to some of the items and tools I used. I like making these videos to show how easy it is to do some of these things on your own, and of course to save a ton of money doing it. And if you use my links, I will earn a whole 17 cents.